Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Ed Sheeran, Play. So this might wind up being a bit of a quicker review, because over the past decade I have been running out of things to say about Ed Sheeran, especially when it feels like he's past his popular peak and even the overexposure. Whatever friction he had with Atlantic and Asylum's been ironed out. He's notched a few singles that were fine enough, embracing a more international texture, specifically from India, which might be indicative of what market might accommodate his skills longer, as he's been much more successful globally than just stateside these days. But the difference now is I didn't really love any of those singles. There wasn't a Don't or Castle on a Hill or even Shivers. Even Sapphire, that was decent enough, I guess. So I have my expectations pretty low, and that sadly might be apropos. And this is where the guy who stepped up to defend Equals in 2021 amidst the peak backlash is here to say this is considerably worse. And Equals is the appropriate comparison, because what often went overlooked with that album, despite it being a basic project by a basic artist for basic people, or I don't know, maybe just the hatred of the Bad Habits music video metastasized beyond any reason, is that with a baseline of sharper melodic hooks and songcraft, it actually took chances and more weird turns than you might remember. I'm still crying out for the proper Ed Sheeran Heartland rock album. The potential is there, along with more emotional drama and conflict underscoring the album. If Ed Sheeran was on top on that album, it sounded like hell. Now, the sharper critique was always that the execution of some of those basic, broadly sketched moments weren't as polished as they really should be, in the lyrical depth or especially the production. So when the emotional drama is stripped away for more conventionally structured, less ambiguous, and quite frankly, less interesting love songs, it's harder to ignore the problems. Most notably, the horribly tinny and compressed vocal lead, where every creak of Ed Sheeran's voice sounds like cheap plastic pressed against the very front of the mix. It's truly jarring, after multiple projects working with Aaron Dessner, to go back to his radio-friendly but truly unflattering delivery and sound, when your melodies are otherwise playing to conventional chord structures or feel de-emphasized in favor of admittedly more textured and better balanced percussion and the actual muscle long abandoned. That vocal lead becomes the center of the mix, and for it to sound this bad is painfully distracting. And what's all the more frustrating is that when Fred again takes the production lead on the bleak relationship crash out Don't Look Down, paradoxically a real highlight, Ed Sheeran's voice just sounds way better balanced. And while I'm more of a fan of his auto-tuned ballad material like the closer Heaven, which kind of feels like Afterglow Part 2, it's largely because it doesn't sound nearly as grating as when it's produced without the auto-tune. And for the life of me, I don't get why Ed Sheeran thought that was a good fit for an album where, much like Divide, and the reason I don't nearly like that album as much as some of the fans, it's predominantly love songs. That not only has he done better on the pure hooks and tunes, but it also feels like Ed Sheeran's going through the motions in terms of songwriting. You want to accentuate warmth and intimacy, this production will not do that. And like with Divide, it places every song doing something different in contrast. And here, not exactly for the better. It's not like we have a Galway girl. I'm more tolerant of Ed Sheeran's rapping than the majority. I was fine with Opening, especially as the hook's got a little bit more bite, but he has delivered technically better flows, and in the softer context of the album, it feels wildly incongruous to sound so gruff and paranoid, which I guess might have been the subtext of the complaints with Equals, the woes of the A-list pop star, but here it is way less supported. It works way less. And while I've already said on Billboard Breakdown that I found Old Phone to be rather underwhelming, the pathos just doesn't translate for me through the more mundane language and framing as much as you would hope. And Don't Look Down is a real album highlight for landing that darkness adjacent to the dance floor. A little more is a jaunty kiss-off that I'm not sure Sheeran has the vocal presence to credibly sell against the fuzzy drums and the soulful touches in the keys and horns, to say nothing of weird sequencing placing it on the album. It is kind of funny in a low-key way off the second verse, and the sequel video to Lego House with Rupert Grint was great, but not only did it remind me of Lego House, a considerably better song, Ed Sheeran playing the old school show showman has never been his best lane compared to someone like Brett Eldridge or even Michael Bublé, which is why In Other Words and The Vow feel so tepid to me. It's very basic coming out of him. This is where I should also mention the integration of Indian music and Farsi into a couple of songs here, notably Sapphire and Symmetry as love and dance songs. I could get way more political and dig into the cultural exchange elements and English colonialism, where at least for Ed Sheeran, it seems like it's in good faith in recording in India with major stars there like Arijit Singh, but unfortunately it also feels really perfunctory on this album as a whole. It's a neat idea, but it's barely expanded, where even if the songs are pretty decent, that does not reflect well on him in terms of the attitude. But truthfully, Play as a whole doesn't reflect well. It's not Ed Sheeran's globe-trotting project so much as one where he's running short on ideas and relying on an increasingly threadbare and broadly generic formula. That was also the big problem with Autumn Variations, and at least that album was produced competently to flatter him in the mix. I'm not sure I'd call it cynical. Ed Sheeran's deft skill in constructing hooks can feel mercenary, but he tends to feel more genuine in his delivery to save it from accusations of non-effort. But this is an album that feels increasingly voiceless from him, where neither the songwriting nor the production is operating above the floor of quality, with a lot of distinctive details that are his. It might just be his weakest project to date, and I include Number 6 Collaborations project in that. So you know what? If you've checked out of Ed Sheeran's music at this point, I don't think you're missing anything. Nothing I'm saying here is that surprising. I just really hate to say that this time, I don't think I can blame you. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. If you can't tell, I am disappointed with this. As a pretty long-time Ed Sheeran defender, I can't defend this. The vocal mixing is just not good, and when the songs don't have any of that idiosyncratic detail or taking odder swerves, because Ed Sheeran can be a pretty weird and complex artist when he wants to be, from a certain manner of speaking to a mainstream point of view. But here, I'm not hearing it. This feels not low effort, but near his floor, and that's really disappointing. But hey, leave your comments down there below. Let's start up the arguments. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in helping support the channel, get albums on my schedule, or just yell at me on my Discord, link to my Patreon and YouTube memberships is right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times out there, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.